Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. So I'm up. It's early. I woke up at like 6:23, which was kind of weird because normally when I wake up, it'd be like 10 o'clock. But last night I woke up. I was awakened by a dream, which led me to thinking about what's in the Bible, what spirits and demons kind of resemble in the plane of the physical, as well as how it interacts with you spiritually. So one of the things that I was like, and I've always believed this, is that a lot of times when we talk about spirits and demons, we always make it too spooky to understand on a regular, like for regular people to understand. And I think that is the fault of the imagery that has been presented to us through other literary, items like books and movies and pictures that try to give you a visual sense of what demons and all of this stuff. And it's confused us as far as what demons and spirits actually are. For we not fight against flesh and blood, but powers and principalities. So in saying that, when we become angry, we are overtaken by a spirit. When we are sad, we are overtaken by a spirit. When we're joyful, we're overtaken by a spirit. When we are raging, we are overtaken by a spirit. Demon possession does not mean that there's some entity that you can smudge out through physical means. That's a lot of times when we think about demon possession, we always talk about, we think about The Exorcist, or we think about like, and I know this sounds weird, but it got to be said. A lot of times we think about like Halloween type of themes when we talk about demon possession, and that's not really true. Some people have have been misinformed in seeing demon possession as mental illness, and that also was wrong. But if we really think about it, it is something that takes over us and something that is uncontrollable. And a lot of times it can be connected to our mental illness, such as things like depression, such as things like lust, things like, let's just take depression for example. Like depression can lead you to do a lot of stuff that you normally would not do if you were in a better mood, or if you were feeling joyful in yourself. Depression has led people to kill themselves, which is not an unforgivable sin, but at the same time, it's like, it's not a good thing either. And I know I might turn people off about talking about demon possession, but we have to put it in a perspective of reality. The devil can affect you. The devil affects you not by getting into your head and taking over your body. No, because we have free will. We act on how we feel. And that's why we have to check how we feel and bring how we feel to reality. Vice versa of just acting on how we feel. Because emotions are strong. Those spirits, those emotions can be very strong and very powerful. A lot of people are led to murder A lot of people are led to steal. A lot of people are led to do all kind of atrocities based on how they feel. And we as Christians are led to do things by righteousness, by thinking about what we do before we do it. So a lot of times people who are led by solely on how they feel, they just be doing stuff just because, not thinking about anybody else, because they're possessed by a spirit. They are controlled by an emotion. We don't have to be very all spooky about it. Like, we don't have to really be spooky about it. And I think that's the issue with a lot of people is when we deal with spirituality, we never really think about what it is, what's being actually said. Excuse me. We never really think about what's actually being said. And I'm not saying that I know everything. I'm just saying we really don't think about what's actually being said. Take, for instance, we would, in those days, they would say somebody who is having fits, or let's just say my daughter is a mischievous child, and she does, no, I don't even want to say that. Let's just call it a spade a spade. A lot of times when we talking about all of this spooky stuff, because I want to bring it into reality, a lot of times when we thinking about all of this stuff that's like mad spooky, it is all about the imagery we have been sold. And that's why we're not supposed to make graven images of things in heaven, because it confuses your mind to think that that image that you have seen is actually what's the truth about what it is. Sexual immorality is a spirit. It is a demon. It is something that is not of God. It causes us to do things that are not of God. That is a spirit that is attached to you. And it manifests itself in many ways. Physically, emotionally. It can control you if you allow it. But we can't. That's a power. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood. And that imagery that we've been given to show us what demons are and what spirits look like, that imagery is showing you something of flesh and blood. But that's not what we fighting against. It's not. That is not what we are fighting against. We're not fighting against this image that we have been shown. We're fighting against things that happen to us internally. Lust is a spirit that can take control over your life, and it's taken over a lot of people's lives to the point where we over-sexualize each other. Not just men, not just women. We over-sexualize ourselves due to the spirit of lust. And it can ruin marriages. It can ruin relationships. It can ruin a lot of stuff. There are people who are addicted to lust. Just think about that. They can be seen as being demon possessed because that spirit, that emotion, that lust is a thing. You can't see lust. You can't see lust, but it's a thing. You can't see rage and anger, but it's a thing. And rage and anger is also something that can take control over you. It is a spirit. It is a demon. I've seen so many people get angry. I've watched videos of, it's this pastor in Canada. And I've seen people just flip their wigs over him saying, I love you. God loves you. Jesus loves you. People have flipped their wigs because that spirit of anger is still inside of them. That's a demon. That's them being possessed by something. And again, I'm not trying to be spooky. I'm not even being spooky. But we have to change our minds and how we see this thing as far as spiritual, which a lot of people call spirituality. It really is a thing about psychology. We are renewed by, we are made new creatures by the renewing of our minds. By the renewing of our minds. That's a psychological thing. The reason why Eve bit the apple was because of a psychological thing. Our free will get us in trouble. Our free will always gets us in trouble. Puts us in situations that we don't want to be in. That emotion that the angels don't get an opportunity to have. And operate in freely. Not the full spectrum. Not the full spectrum. So again, we can't just be out here saying that we can't be out here basing our spirituality off of, or what we know to be spirits. We can't base that off of imagery, because you can't make a picture for what things are. Most things are. You just can't. You can't show me a picture that completely encompasses what depression is, what anger is, what sadness is, what happiness is. These are all spirits that enter us. Matter of fact, they don't even have to enter us. They're a part of us. But we have to learn how to control them. And I'm not just speaking for people on the internet. I'm just speaking for myself. I have to learn how to control these rushing and fleeting spirits, fleeting emotions. And there's nothing spooky about that. Nothing. The things that we battle against are all contained within this world. They're all contained within this world. When we leave these bodies, these physical manifestations of our soul, when we leave these, none of this even matters anymore. Dealing with sickness and all of this stuff, you don't have to deal with that anymore. But we have to reassess how we see things to bring it to the forefront and to understand that the word is true and the word is real. And if the word is true, the word is real, then God is real. And if you believe in spirits and all of that other stuff, and you don't believe in God, you have an issue. You cannot believe in something, and this is something else. A lot of people believe in all of this metaphysical stuff and spirits and all of this stuff, but they don't believe in God. And that's weird to me. How can you believe in spirits and ghosts and all of this stuff, but you don't believe in God? That is completely, it's ludicrous. But again, if we bring all of this stuff into the natural world from a natural understanding, we can understand things that are supernatural, that are above natural or above our understanding of the natural world. Because a lot of times when we talk about supernatural things, it's just above our understanding of the natural world. Because we yet do not understand the natural world. Because a lot of times when we look at the natural world, we're looking from a perspective of just our own personal surroundings. Not thinking that the earth is bigger than our own personal space. The world is bigger than our own personal space. The universe is bigger than our own personal space. We're not even a speck that comes up on a blip on a radar if you look at the entirety of the universe. And the universe operates in a manner that is outside of even our knowledge. And there are things outside of the universe that operate on a higher note. But again, we have to understand the natural things in order to understand some of the spiritual things that are going on. And again, I'm not trying to be spooky. We just have to bring this to a natural consensus. Take, for instance, people always say, well, y'all believe in a talking snake. No, we believe in the fact that you can communicate with things of this world. Me and my wife, we just literally watched the video of this woman with a pet snake, and she called it and it came. Listen to she had a pet snake. She called it and it came. That ain't nothing not natural. We teach apes how to do sign language. We teach our dogs how to sit and beg and do all of these tricks. We can communicate with animals. So that's not anything that's not of this world. Like, you don't have to be spooky to say I got a pet bear and my bear understands the words that I'm saying. Because communication to us as humans has become an idol, in the fact that we always think that our communication is above the communication of anything else. Our communication is superior above everything else. And to be honest, in our most natural state, we don't need a whole lot of words to communicate. A lot of times it's body language. It's things that don't have to do with trying to interpret things through a long message. And we've lost the ability to do that with each other. We don't pay enough attention to each other. So again, I'm not trying to be spooky. It just is what it is. Our level of communication is not what it was. It's totally different. We have become devoid of nature. We've separated ourselves from nature, the natural world. So it's a lot of stuff that we don't even understand even now. Because we've become so prideful about where we have made ourselves in humanity, and the fact that we have the ability to control things within our environment. And I shouldn't say control, I should say manipulate things within our environment, because we can't really control anything. We can only manipulate what we have been given. And I learned that from one of my brothers. We are master manipulators. We try to be like God. We try to be God, but we can never be God, because we are only able to manipulate what is created. We can never create something. We have to manipulate what is created. And that's not spooky. So we have to get ourselves out of these spooky mindsets that things within the realm of our world and our environment are too beyond us for our understanding. And a lot of churches have done it. They always talk about this manifestation and this, that, and the third. They talk about if you believe it, and this is new age stuff, where they say if you think about it, it'll come to fruition. And that's not something that we were ever promised in the Bible. We're always told to work hard. We've never not been told to work hard, or that we wouldn't have to do work. From the beginning, Adam was given a job. He was told to name the animals. Even after after the first sin was committed, which was basically them just saying to God, "Oh, I'm gonna do my own thing." After that, he was told that he was going to toil in the field. Nobody is granted the ability to just manifest things just because they think it. No, we learn how to operate within our spectrum. We were told to subdue the earth. Subduing the earth has nothing to do with controlling things within the earth. We can manipulate things within the earth, but we can't be destroying things at the same time. We can't be specifically not ourselves. Because if you're self-destructive, which goes to being a spirit, the spirit of self-destruction, that pours out into everything else. So now you destroying the world, and God don't have to do nothing, because you're already self-destructive. And again, I'm talking about myself. All of us are self-destructive. We choose death and not life. And there's nothing spooky about that. A lot of times we're more afraid about what we don't know than we are about what we do know. And we should not, and I just read the scripture, and it's talking about not being anxious. It's a part of anxious. And it's a script, it's in Matthew chapter 6. Talks about not being anxious, not worrying about a whole lot of stuff. And we do. We worried about things we don't know, which stops us from being productive. And again, it's not spooky. These are things within our natural realm that we are fighting against. Things that we can't see. An idea is something that we can't see. Yet and still we are fighting against other people's ideas every single day. Emotions are things that we cannot see. Yet we are fighting with other people and our own emotions every single day. It's nothing spooky about that. It is very real. Possession is very real. Yes, they exaggerate things on film and all the movies and stuff like that. And we've come to believe the graven images of things unseen. Graven image of things that are unseen. We believe those. The pictures of the devil in a red suit. The exorcist, the possession of this person, and we believe all of that stuff. And they're just graven images of things that are not seen, that we're not supposed to be believing. And it's funny, because a lot of times when we're talking about spirits and demons and stuff like that overtaking us, it's literally about what emotion is going on there. What mentality is going on there. Again, we are made new creatures by the renewing of our minds. So if I change the way I think, I change the way that I am. Peace and blessings. I love each and every last one of y'all.